Hello, good evening. Welcome to Pivot Points Part 1. So here is my commitment to 100 pivot points. I don't know, I don't have any idea where I'm going to get 100 pivot points, but over the next few months, I am going to make every effort to do it. Hi Heidi, thanks for joining me. So, hey Carrie, how are you? So there's a few people that are curious about what pivot points are. Are you curious or are you just bored tonight? And if you want to join the conversation via video, if you want to jump into the live with me at any point during the pivot points, just let me know and I will be happy to add you in. So, I don't know why, but for some reason I am more nervous about this live than any other live I've ever done. I don't know why that is. I am like super nervous. So maybe my girls, they're in the background, maybe they could give me some encouragement. Do you think they could? Do you think, Kayliana, could you give Grandma some encouragement? That's my sweet little granddaughter. Isn't she beautiful? Look at those eyes. Be tall so you can see your eyes. I can hear you chewing.
You can.
Mm-hmm. But it's okay. You're beautiful.
Beautiful.
She's having some grapes. It's time for her to go to bed. She's got to go to school tomorrow. So, what are pivot points? What do you think pivot points are, you guys? What are you doing tonight? Joining me. So, I want to hear what you think pivot points are. Kayliana just got grape on my shirt. That's okay though. So I was flying on the airplane and I was reading me some Martha Beck. And I have been thinking about doing a series of lives because I wanted to make a commitment to following through on some things. And one of those things I'm following through on is some self-improvement. So any of you who know who Martha Beck is, you know that she is all about self-improvement, kind of like the self-actualization, get to that higher level. And I always like stuff that is self-improvement that is also consistent with what I believe in the Bible. The Bible is my number one self-help book. So as long as it lines up with the Bible and is consistent with that, then I'm all about adding it into my knowledge base. So I decided that I was going to copy my new friend, Samantha Staten. She did 100 days of honesty. And I thought, well, I can't do exactly what Samantha did. So I'm going to think of a topic and I'm going to do 100 days of something. So I was a little stressed about it, thinking, well, what's it going to be? What am I going to do? And finally on the airplane, hey, Bev, thanks for joining me. So finally on the airplane, on the way home from Hawaii the other day, I came up with an idea, and that is, trying to correct this a little bit without it falling off. Came up with the idea of pivot points. I was thinking of some different things that I have learned over the years, and I thought, pivot points, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. So even Bev and I had talked about topics, and what do you talk about? What are you going to commit to for a length of time? How are you doing, Heidi? And so I decided that pivot points was kind of like the notion of a book I read one time called Defining Moments, I think is what it was called. I learned about it in church anyway. And it talked about life's defining moments, that there were these times that things changed. And so I think that I have not had a defining moment in my life. It's been more numerous defining moments. And so pivot points is all about these various defining moments, these various things, events, people, situations, whether the situations are bad or good, that cause us to pivot. And I think of pivoting as something that is life-altering. And some of the times when we pivot, it's just a little pivot. We're just changing a little bit. And that's okay. Sometimes when we pivot, it's like a 180. We're completely going in a different direction, like backward. Sometimes when we pivot, it's like we're doing a 360. We're spinning in circles because we really have no idea what it's all about, where it's leading, where it's going. Now what's life going to be like? You know, there's some like really super life-changing things. And then there's all those little things along the way that are just little pivots. So this 100 days of pivots, pivot points, will be some where I will tell you about stories that have happened to me over time that were life-changing. Sometimes I'll talk to you about some pivot points that were just little pivots, little tiny pivots. So while I'm talking, if you can think of anything that you recall that's been a little or a big pivot. Does this sound like an interesting topic to you guys? Or is talking about pivot points something that's going to be helpful? The whole point of this was to be helpful to me, for me to think back and connect with the times in my life where things changed and something occurred that made me different than I was at the time. It's also in sharing those stories, sharing those, that I can hear yours as well, and we can talk about your pivot points and things that have happened for you that have shaped you and made you the way that you are. Hopefully we come through all of this as more in-tuned people. I don't know. In-tuned sounds good. So one of the things that happened, and I'm going to start maybe today and work my way backward. Why not just start with today? Today was a phenomenal day, and I experienced a pivot point today. If you experienced one today, write it down there in the comments, or say, Nicole, bring me on live with you. I want to share it, and I'll bring you on live. You have to have an iPhone to come on live, though. So I have been in this self-improvement journey for a long time. Back in 2010, I think it was, I read the book Finding Your Own North Star. My very dear friend Sarah had it sitting on the table at home, and we were roommates, and I thought that it was something to do with sailing because she was going to captaining school. I don't know, is that what it's called, captaining school? Anyway, so I'm like, hey Sarah, what's this book about anyway? And she's like, oh, that's a super good book. You ought to read it. And I'm like, it's about sailing? I don't really think I need to read a book about sailing. Well, it wasn't anything like sailing, finding your own North Star like that. Hey, Lori, thanks for joining. The book Finding Your Own North Star was finding your own North Star, your direction in this world, that unique thing that you were born to do in your skin suit that we live in on this planet. And so I started reading the book back then and got all the way through it, and it was probably one of the hardest books I've ever read because it makes you really take a look at yourself. And what did I always want to do that I somehow let the thoughts in my head get in the way of preventing me from doing it? And it could be anything for you. It could be you always wanted to be a ballerina, or you always wanted to be an actress, or you wanted to be an astronaut, or you wanted to own your own business. Maybe today you own your own business and you want to tell people about it, but you're afraid to go live. So all of these things are things that are just getting in our head. It starts with a thought, and that thought stops us from pushing forward. We run into ourselves, and we don't have the ability currently to jump over that, to keep moving on and trust ourselves that we can do what we want to do. So that's what this book was all about. Really getting in touch with yourself, figuring out what is it that you've let yourself self-defeat, or you've let other people in your life defeat. And so, yeah, this was like 7 years ago. And a few months ago, I joined more than half a year ago now. I joined a company as a direct marketing person in Limelight. Hey Nancy, it's funny I just said Limelight when you joined. So I started my own business where I sell skincare and professional makeup for people. And a lot of people think, Nicole, what are you doing this? What, I mean, you're a college professor, you got like 50 jobs. Do you really need more? And yeah, I did, clearly, or I wouldn't have started it. And when I saw Limelight, it just seemed like a really good way for me to get back in touch with feeling good about my outside self, because I was feeling kind of ugly and old and like nobody would want to date me and stuff. I was going through some kind of funk in my personal self, and I decided I wasn't going to wear makeup anymore. I don't need to. I'm not trying to impress anybody. But when I was doing that, it was actually putting deeper thoughts into my head that were preventing me from doing other things in life too. So I'm just being absolutely transparent and real with you guys, okay? So I joined Limelight, and more on that another time, but then we had this conference and I'm like, I want to go to this conference. So I signed up, and after I signed up for the conference, I found out that the author of the book, Finding Your Own North Star, Martha Beck, was going to be one of our speakers at the conference. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, Martha Beck. And you guys may not know who she is, and I didn't really either before, other than I liked that one book. And then I found out Martha Beck is Oprah Winfrey's personal life coach. So I think that Oprah's got a ton of money, like a shit ton of money. And if she could buy whatever she wants, and the person that she chooses to have as her life coach is Martha Beck, I'm thinking Martha Beck's kind of got some good stuff to say. I like what I see Oprah doing with her life. I mean, she's from rags to riches for sure. Absolutely. I will follow that track anytime. So anyway, so I go there, and here's Martha Beck, and there's like 3,000 people at this conference, and I'm thinking, man, I'd really like to meet her. And then that little voice in my head said, oh, get out of yourself, Nicole. You're not going to go meet Martha Beck. You're not going to go talk to her. And I can hear everybody that I know telling me this too. I mean, Nicole, seriously. She's here to do her thing, and then she's going to move on. And I was super inspired by what she said at the conference, and I just kept pondering it. After the conference, I rebought the book, Finding Your Own North Star, for my daughter. At least I think I bought it for my daughter, but I may have bought it because I need to read it again too. So at the very least, hopefully Lindsay will pick it up and read it one day, but if not, I will pick it up and reread it. And then she mentioned this other book, or I found it on Amazon or something. What's it called? Finding Your Way in a Wild New World, I think is the name of the book. So I started reading that. Hey, Michelle. And I'm reading it in little bits and bites because I am really trying to get a lot out of it, and there's exercises and things you need to do. So I don't want to devour it all in one chunk because I really don't think I'll get the most out of it. Hey Michelle, anyone else that's joining too, we're talking about pivot points. Pivot points in my mind are the points where something changes in our life that we pivot and we go in a slightly different direction, or we go in a massively different direction. So your pivot points can be little or big. And throughout these 100 times that we meet, if you will bring some ideas of pivot points you've had and type them in the comments, then I would love to have you share them with everybody that's watching now or the replay. Okay, so I take the book with me when I'm flying out to Hawaii for this trip. I just did this business trip, and I started reading a little bit, and I was thinking, you know, I want to do this 100 days thing. Couldn't think of a topic to do it on. And one of the exercises in the book, and here's a pivot point for me, one of the exercises in the book said to keep in your head something that you need to solve, but then let it go and go into, there's a lot of different terms for it, but let's just say a meditative state. And another time I'll go deeper into that. But let's just say, keep the thought in your mind of the thing you want to change and then go into a meditative state. I don't think my dog's going to be able to go into a meditative state right now. She's barking. I don't know what she needs. Maybe the girls, could the girls help me? Could one of the girls help me figure out what Kaya Kayavska needs? Is this interesting, you guys? Is this something you want to listen to, or am I just like having another pizza dream? So hopefully the topic is working for you. Thank you, Kayliana. You're so sweet. She's going to get Kaya a little treat probably. You want a treat, Kaya? And Kaya's like, treat, yeah. Okay. So I decided on this airplane, I am going to practice this meditative state, and I'm going to keep in my mind that I want to have a topic for the 100 pivot point, or the 100 things. I didn't know yet it was pivot points. And so then I was like, the jet engines are and I kind of fell asleep, which really good relaxation there, right? Good meditative state. Fell asleep. Next thing I know, I feel the plane, you know, and it was like some turbulence, and I am not a fan of turbulence. And oh, thank you, Michelle. Share more on that. Type more. So I woke up to a very alert state because of the turbulence, and I get out a piece of paper and I just start feeling like I wanted to write some things, and I wrote down defining moments, and I wrote down something else, I can't remember what it was, and I wrote down pivot points, and that's how this was born. I used the relaxation technique that she described in that book, and I put it in my mind and then let it go and went into sort of a meditative state, and out of it came the idea to do the pivot points. So some of you are probably thinking, oh sure, I'm gonna click on and Nicole's gonna talk 100 times about makeup. Well, I probably will talk about some makeup because makeup has had some pivot points for me. It's caused some pivots. But I'm just going to talk about different things in my life that have happened, and some of these things will be probably funny, some of them will probably be very serious, some of them might even make you cry when you hear some additional pivot points that I will share over time. So I get back Saturday, I like flew all day. Sunday was just like catch up and sleep and take Kayliana to go try out for her singing and dancing group. I'm so excited. I hope she makes it. I think she will. But if not, we're going to go into something else. Doesn't matter. So I'm cruising through Facebook on Sunday, and up pops a free webinar from Martha Beck. And I'm like, what? What is this? Is this free? Is this really free? And so I just put in my email address and name, and got this email and said, Monday at 1 o'clock Pacific time or Eastern time, there's going to be this Martha Beck webinar. I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. And went to sleep yesterday, woke up today, was busy doing other stuff, and about 10 minutes after 1, I checked my email and it said, don't forget, the webinar with Martha Beck starts at 1 o'clock. And I'm like, oh crap, it's already 10 after. So I hurry up, click, 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 got in there and started listening to the content, and I'm thinking, I want to meet Martha Beck. Remember, I wanted to meet her, and that was highly improbable that I would ever get an opportunity to meet her. Not impossible, but as she likes to say, highly improbable that it would happen. So I'm listening, and she is giving the coolest advice. The thing, I'll just tell you briefly, this pivoty point thing that happened in that talk today. She talked about thoughts are things. Thoughts are things. And I knew that. Thoughts are things. And I also knew somewhere, because of other self-help, that thoughts are things, and the more we think about something, the more we draw it to ourselves. So the more we think about negative situations in life, the more we are drawing those negative situations to ourselves. Have you heard of that before? And a lot of people are not even remotely in a space where they want to buy into that. But there have been enough things in my life, and I will mention those pivot points another time, that I know that I have drawn negative things to myself. Hey, Linda. And a lot of that is because of how I felt about myself and what I felt I deserved. And so I'm listening to this, and then she puts up on the screen this like rotten head of cabbage. And she's like, you have to taste the thought. And I kind of missed the first part of this, so hopefully somewhere along the line I'll get I guess they'll send me a link to the whole webinar today. But thoughts are things, and if we taste the things that we think, we're going to know if it tastes nasty, if it just tastes not for me, or if it tastes really good. Does it taste sweet, like just like the sweetest orange, like, ooh, I love blood oranges. So tasty, sweet blood orange. She was using an orange as an example. And no worries on that. You can always catch the beginning replay part. So I could identify, because I like food, I like taste, I like to eat stuff. And she showed this cabbage that had this filthy yuck on it. And she talked about a cookbook she got when she was in Singapore. And the first step they said in the cookbook was to take your food, remove the filth. Remove the filth. And like when we're cooking, clearly we're going to take this head of cabbage and we're going to see if we can salvage it, right? Haven't you done that with food before? Salvage what's available, what's good enough to eat, and what you just need to tear off and throw away. Tonight, my daughter was cooking, and she was cooking baby cabbages. And we had gone to the store before I went to Hawaii, and we picked up a bunch of stuff, and it was on sale. And these little baby cabbages, also known as Brussels sprouts, or little fart balls, because that's what they make you do. Sorry, that was too much. Maybe too much. Sorry. Anyway, so she's like, Mom, some of these little baby cabbages, these Brussels sprouts are funky. They've got like this crap on them. Do you think we can still eat them? And I'm thinking, yeah, we spent this money on it. Hell yeah, we're going to eat it. And I look over and they're not too bad. There's just some yucky spots on it. And so she commenced pulling off the yucky stuff, throwing away the yucky stuff. And she dug down deep until she got to the parts of the little baby cabbages that were edible. And not only were they edible, she turned them into this wonderful side dish for us tonight. I went out and cooked the steaks on the barbecue, and she was in here and cooked the baby cabbages with bacon and some broth, chicken broth. And did a little steam on it after she put a bit of a char on it. And oh my gosh, they were so, so good. But when we first looked at these baby cabbages, it's because they've been sitting in their fridge for like at least a week, probably more than a week. And they were on sale at the farmer's market, so they probably were kind of on their last legs anyway. So she identified quickly, looking at those baby cabbages, that there was some funk on it. And her first instinct with this food was to remove the funk and determine, once I have removed the layers of funk, is this still something that I'm willing to eat? Is it going to taste good? And I'm like, Martha Beck was doing this exact word example with a big cabbage today. And the big cabbage, the first instruction she had from this cookbook she had is remove the filth. Before you go to eat something, remove the filth and see if you're going to like it. Hey, Stevie. Welcome. Thanks for coming. What did Heidi say? Oh, Brussels sprouts are awesome, you guys. Give them a chance. Bacon? If you put bacon with Brussels sprouts, even if you don't like them, you're going to love the bacon. So maybe give it another try. So Martha was talking about this filth on the food, and you dig down, you take away these things, and she was talking about thoughts are things. Taste the thought and see if it's palatable. See if it tastes good. If it doesn't taste good, what are you going to do with the thought that doesn't taste good? Puh, spit it out. Or if you can think of the thought before you even taste it and realize this is not going to taste good. This thought does not make me feel good. Don't even try it. Don't even eat it. One of the things she said too today was, when you have a thought and you taste it and it doesn't sound good or doesn't feel good to you, think about whether it's actually true. You may have a thought, say, I'm just too fat, nobody's going to want to date me. Is that true? Is that a true statement? Or is it possible that that's just like misinformation somewhere? So the whole talk she gave today was about controlling your thoughts and tasting before you consume the whole meal. So if you taste a thought, you sample a thought, and it's not something that's going to be good, reject it. Get rid of it. Don't eat it. And so there was so much more on this, but she said that the more you do it, the more you will have what's left as tasty fruit. And she said the more that you do that, life will just start literally bowling you oranges. Life will bowl you these delicious oranges. And I thought, I'm ready to get bowled some delicious oranges. I'm ready to let go of those negative thoughts that hold me back. And I want to be wildly successful in all of my business ventures. And I am on this 100 pivot points commitment because one of the things I want to do is to get more personal with people, share my life with people, share my businesses with people, and make a difference in other people's lives. And I mean like them going live or their actual life outside of Facebook. So today's pivot point was that you better check that thought and taste it. If it tastes good, keep it going. If it tastes bad, peel the filth off and throw it away. So she gets to the end of the talk, and remember, I'm still thinking, how am I ever going to meet Martha Beck? How am I ever going to talk to Martha Beck? And she said, there's a little button on your app that you can push and raise your hand if you would like to ask me a question. We also have some questions that people have been typing in during the seminar, and I'm going to go to those first, and if I have time left, I will go to the raised hand ones. Hey, Rachel. So she goes off and she starts answering these questions, and people have like fantastic questions. They have like awesome questions. And so I'm waiting. Is she going to call me? Is she going to call me? She calls two other people, and then she calls someone Natalie. I'm like, oh, that was pretty close. That was an N. That was real close. It could happen. And highly improbable, but possible. And she keeps, going on. And then you can tell that wind down thing. She's fixing to wind down on her talk. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe another time, whatever. And all of a sudden she goes, I have time for one more question. And it is Nicole. Nicole, would you care to join us and ask a question? I'm thinking, Nicole, me? This Nicole right here? And sure enough, it was me. And while she'd been doing her Q&A session, I was like, what am I going to ask? What am I going to ask that's like some kind of smart kind of question? And I asked her, and I was thinking about my daughter because my daughter has been wanting to make a change. And I know that there have been times in my life where I've wanted to make changes. And one of the things Martha Beck talked about is when she was a college professor, I'm like, I'm a college professor. She hated it. I hate it. Well, part of it. I like parts of it, but part of it I don't like. And she had talked at our Limelight Palooza that she quit her job and her husband went into debt so that they could make changes in their lives. And I'm like, hey, Ruben, how are you? Thanks for joining. So I'm thinking I'm probably not going to be able to talk my daughter into just quitting her job and make some giant changes. That's probably not going to happen. But I love my daughter very much. And I want her to start living her best life. I want her to taste her thoughts, check on them. If they're not good, spit them out and let another thought in. And so I asked Martha, well, when you're thinking about making these changes and you're starting to want to live your best life, how do you do that? Do you do that all at once, or how do you do it? And she said, great question. And I like words of affirmation, you guys. If you haven't figured that out, that's my love language. Send me a love you and I'll be your buddy forever. Hey, Brittany, thanks for joining. So she said, that's a great question. How do you make those changes? Because you start tasting things that don't taste great and you spit it out, and you need new thoughts that are going to be good for you. And she said, like that cabbage that she showed the picture of, she mentioned that and said, slowly peel off the filth, slowly peel off the things that don't fit you, that don't resonate with you, that you're doing. And eventually you are going to have all oranges, all tasty, delicious fruit. And she said, as you peel off those layers of nasty filth that don't taste good, or they just maybe taste stale, they just don't quite fit you anymore, you will eventually, life will start bowling you oranges. And I'm like, okay, so you don't have to jump in all the way like I always do. I'm kind of a ready, fire, aim kind of person. Most people don't like that. They have zero tolerance for that kind of pivot. Most people like to pivot about 2 or 3 degrees. I'll pivot like 180, I don't care. But then sometimes I second guess the choices I make. So hearing her give the suggestion that peel back the things, get rid of the things, I love it, Heidi, that don't fit you, that don't resonate with you, that don't feel good, peel those back and get rid of them. And eventually you will find the fruit that was meant for you. The fruit that will taste the most delicious to you, that when you have a thought, I need to go do this for work, or I need to go do this for the family, you're going to feel really good about it. It's going to feel good, it's going to taste good, and you will be making those pivots along the way, and your life's going to be different. It's going to be what God designed it to be. For you, unique you. You, only you. Be yourself. Everybody else is already taken. I've been saying that for years and years and years. And the more we slowly peel away those things that aren't for us, the more we have insight into those things that are for us. Everybody's at a different place in their walk with this type of thing. But everybody can start today making those changes and see where it leads you. What do you think? That was my thought for today. Pivot 1, done. I have 99 to go. Hi, Kathy. You're going to have to catch the replay. I just finished up on pivot point number 1. Thoughts are things. Trust your thoughts. Decide if your thought is a good thought for you or one that makes you feel bad. Think of it like tasting it, and if it doesn't taste good, spit it out. If it tastes good, do more of it. Thoughts are things, and they will lead to the condition of your life. So you are in control of that. That's very good, Nancy. It is okay to peel those things away. Some people make us feel creepy. Some people don't make us feel good. This is something, I thought I was done, but you made a point that made me think about it. Some people are like, I have a relationship that feels creepy in some ways. And she mentioned that there's some things that you need to peel away completely, get rid of the whole dang head of cabbage because the whole thing's rotten. But there are things that we can separate ourselves from a few of the layers and keep what's good. So she gave an example of a relationship, and so you've got this dude in your life and he loves to go to the rodeo and you just aren't interested in all in the rodeo. But there's a lot of other really good things you like about this person. Hey, Ashley. And she said, then peel away the part that's the rodeo. Let him have his thing. He goes and does his thing. And when you guys are together, you're not about the rodeo, but you like the rest of the stuff about him. And the more that we can do that with people and realize that no one person is going to be our everything, nor should we be one person's everything. We should be a part of the fabric of someone's life, not the comforter for their life. You know what I mean? It takes the village of fabrics to make a comforter. I don't know, that one didn't work, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. So these are the things that I'm going to be working on, and I will check in with you and let you know how my thoughts are things, and I need to taste my thoughts before I accept them as gospel. And if they don't taste right, then they're probably not for me. And if they taste right, it's getting me closer and closer to my best life and the life I was born to live. That very exactly, Ashley. See, you got it. You picked right up on what I was saying. Absolutely. I appreciate all of you being part of my patchwork and for indulging me in my rant or whatever tonight. Yeah, boom, shaka laka laka. Can you, when you're the host, can you like do a sparkle thing or something for somebody? Oh no, that'd be fun. There. Way to go, Ashley. Okay, that's enough. All right, you guys. So I'm going to sign off for tonight. But if you think of any thoughts or things, pivots that you would like to put in the comments, come back and do that after I post the video. And please share this video. If you have friends or family that you think need to pivot, then if you think this is a good description of how to pivot, then please share it. And I look forward to tomorrow. We will do part 2, 100 pivots. Have a good night.